Hoffman leads a stellar cast on a powerful life journey.
We're gonna get back on our feet and come out swinging. The film deals with what the effect is on the family.
Ebert and Roper give Moonlight Mile 2 thumbs way up.
Oh, what are we gonna do?
It's about a family dealing with loss and with secrets.
Simply one of the best films of the year.
This may be a capital case, a death penalty case.
I think the story investigates a lot of emotional chaos.
Dustin, Susan, and Jake all give Oscar-worthy performances.
I lost my friend. It's the story of people growing up.
An emotional triumph.
It's all right. Everything you're feeling, I'm feeling too.
To tell such a serious story and find these great comedic moments, that's genius.
In a nutshell, the story is really, it's about sort of the most unlikely timing for a life opportunity.
Moonlight Mile, a journey to screen.
Joe, what do you think you're gonna do? Without our girl?
Jojo, I have no idea.
The story of Moonlight Mile is a family left behind in the wake of the loss of their daughter, and in the case of a young man, the loss of his fiancée. It's a story about what bond still exists between these people when the common thread is snipped away.
It's about 4 people and how they covered up and their grief, and then eventually how the situations in their life forced them to deal with it.
Moonlight Mile was a labor of love for director Brad Silberling.
The journey of this film is its own saga. I wrote a first draft of the script close to 8 years ago.
I think this is a story that he had to tell, and sort of for him, the logical conclusion of setting it down, pen to paper, was to take it all the way through as a director also.
Only child gone, work at a standstill.
It's only been 3 days.
Of course.
Because I wanted to find a way of allowing my work to include my life and not have to do the 2 on separate tracks. I think also because I think what I have to say as a filmmaker is really what's inside this story.
I found the project both romantic and really funny. And yet it starts at a very serious, it has a very serious foundation.
He stole a copy from my agent and just said to me, listen, if you ever get serious about making this movie, I would love to be your partner.
It is very real. This is the way people talk, like this is the way people interact a lot, more so than a lot of movies out there.
The filmmakers knew that in order to get the project started, the right cast was extremely important.
I had Dustin Hoffman in my head, and I had Susan Sarandon in my head, and never dreamed that either one, let alone both, would be possible.
Academy Award-winning actress Susan Sarandon was cast first to play the role of grieving mother Jojo Floss.
When I read it, I just thought it was an original and heartfelt and really unique story.
There was no question in our mind that she was going to play the part.
I'd never seen anybody deal with grief the way this woman does.
Joe, what do you... Honey, those are gifts.
Not gifts, party favors.
Gifts from our friends are supposed to be helpful.
Grieving for grown-ups?
Yes.
Please, I'll show you helpful.
No.
She simply said to me, it was a line out of the screenplay, she said, you did a good thing, I'd love to do this with you. You tell me when, and we'll see if we can work out.
I know something wasn't right. She asked me to meet her. I was supposed to be there at the counter.
Early on in the casting process, Oscar-winning actor Dustin Hoffman had turned down an offer to play Ben Floss. Yet after Brad's second film had been released, a surprise phone call would change everything.
He ended up seeing my last film and was incredibly menschy and picked up the phone and said, boy, I respected what you did with your actors.
And I said, so how you doing with that movie I remember I read last year? And he just looked at me and he says, you mean the one you turned down? I said, oh, God, did I? Oh, yeah, I guess I did.
I wouldn't stay away from him, and so I was doing my best, but had the greatest afternoons with him talking about that screenplay and to really developing the Ben Floss character.
We just started talking and reading the script together and, giving each other thoughts and stuff, and it grew.
He committed at long last, and again, for me, it was a dream.
The task of finding someone to play young Joe Nast proved to be a daunting one, given that the character is extremely close to writer-director Brad Silberling.
I had gone to visit Cameron Crowe when he was dubbing Almost Famous, And we were talking about the difficulty of casting your leads, and he said, just deal with it, face the fact that it is a version of you.
More importantly, I think, for me, at first was the dialogue, actually. How so much was said, especially from my character's point of view, you know, without saying much at all.
What is it? It's like we're all waiting for something to happen.
An agent said to me with tremendous confidence, you simply have to sit down with him because he is you at a younger age. And I thought, yeah, big sell. And he walked in my office, and we spent about, 4 hours together.
I remember being in there and just being like, this is this is a really long meeting, but this is amazing.
I remember saying to Mark Johnson, finally, I took him to coffee and said, okay, it's Jake's movie.
How dare you? How dare you treat me like this? I haven't let a man touch me in 3 years. Look at me. And I'm finally right here, Joe.
The casting then turned to newcomer Ellen Pompeo to play the pivotal role of Birdie.
I think it's about the wonderful things that come out of something bad. Something bad happens, there's always a handful of beautiful things that come out of it.
Avi Kaufman, who's a phenomenal casting director, finally said to me one day in Los Angeles, don't say a word, just please come in this room with me, you have to meet somebody. And then she sits and proceeds to read 3, 4 scenes, just waltzes through them with such a sense of odd confidence and grace that I literally just sat there and thought, holy God.
Brad called me and said, I've just met somebody and read somebody who I'm over the moon for.
And that was it. I sent the tape over to the studio. The studio immediately saw it and concurred, and there was Ellen Pompeo.
Who would do that? He had to kill somebody. Is he that crazy? Why didn't he just shoot his wife first? Why did he have to kill her daughter?
Because she was there.
Rounding out this extraordinarily talented cast is Academy Award-winning actress Holly Hunter, playing the role of District Attorney Mona Camp.
I think that Mona Camp provides a reality for this story, and I think she provides a certain levity and a certain, she reorients them. And I think gives them a context in which to deal with their grief and their loss.
I got a call out of the blue from her agent, who's a fellow I know, Steve Donville, who said to me, so, your friend Holly Hunter, what do you think about her for the role of Mona Camp in your script? And I actually, wasn't sure if he was kidding or not. And she just was happy to show up and to take charge of the role.
Moonlight Mile, A Journey to Screen.
Can I help you?
Hi there, maybe you can. I was wondering if you were here when my daughter was killed. I was trying to figure out what stool she was actually...
Having the director be the writer has its distinct advantages for the acting process.
The writer-director is usually, paradoxically, more flexible because he's the writer, so he doesn't have to call up the writer or please the writer.
So, Ben, are you serious?
Joe, are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious? Absolutely.
He allows an actor's instincts to flourish, and that's the greatest gift. And for some writers, that's very difficult for them to let go of how they perceive the character in their mind's eye, and Brad is able to relinquish that.
What is wrong with you people? How hard is it to fix a window? How hard is it to fix a window?
For me, he's been extremely flexible when I've talked. I said, now what about this and what about this? We like each other, I guess we respect each other. And I said, sometimes maybe if you just even shorten it more, or what about this line? And I have not seen him say no, hardly at all.
He and I started meeting very early on. We were having lovely global discussions about the story, the character. We would sit and start riffing together, and I would steal from those moments, and those would then become wonderful dialogue.
You have to hope that the director is enough of a director that he can forget, in a way, about being the writer, because sometimes, you get something even more than what you envisioned.
Inevitably, if you're a smart enough director, you're a thief, and you sit and watch what comes out in rehearsal. If it's a piece of staging, if it's an attitude or a look, or somebody mistakenly drops a word, and if it's better and you're listening, there's your movie.
Ben, maybe you better take him out before he spreads the joy again.
I could...
No. Go ahead. And please stop. Look, stop cleaning up, okay? Look, if we ever had an excuse for once to have our place look like it's now, so just relish the opportunity, okay? Okay.
Come on.
And lower your shoulders, Benjamin.
Thank you.
The remarkable moment after everybody was cast in Moonlight Mile was the moment of actually having them all share the same space for the first time. And I remember simply sitting back, watching this group around the table and feeling like, if I don't screw this up, this can be magic. It really is a matter of trusting the relationships that you see gelling. I mean, Susan and Dustin were as if they had been married for over 30 years the first time they walked in the room together.
Damn it, Ben, you are doing it again.
What?
The thing.
What
You'd always
thing?
talked around the girl, you never talked to her.
What?
You never said a straight thing to her, Ben. From the time she was 9 years old, you made me do it.
That is so unfair.
God forbid she should grow up and then you might have to, too. I mean, the perfect father as long as she was a kid.
That's so unfair.
For Dustin and Susan to create such powerful performances, they developed a strong bond.
Susan and I go way back, and this is the first time we've ever worked together. We have a trust, to say the least, and a familiarity at the same time, and we genuinely like each other.
It was perfect because the relationship in the movie was so easy for me always to be yelling at Dustin, telling him to stop talking or whatever. It worked perfectly.
The romance within the screenplay was brought to life by the chemistry between Jake and Ellen.
So did you come back for that drink?
No, the dancing, actually.
Hey. Well, you had your shot.
Jake and I have chemistry. You know, we get along, we like each other, we have chemistry.
She is, in my opinion, she is the love in this movie. She's the thing that brings it out in all of us, and in one way or another. The way she ripples on me, I ripple on Ben, on Jojo, all those things, she just hits the, you know, the pendulum and it swings. So to fill those shoes is tremendous amount of pressure, and she's done it with utmost grace.
Brad knew that the humor within the screenplay would be realized with the actors' performances.
Yeah, lately I've been a little preoccupied.
Oh, I see. Other interests.
My fiance's death.
It can be very funny to see people not dealing with reality.
Then you got the whole burial to deal with. And this whole coffin business, much more complicated than people think.
The more desperate people are, the funnier things are. I mean, you have to be respectful to a certain point, but I think that they're so close together, especially when things get really bad, they're kind of ludicrous, and I think that what this movie captures is the irony, is the desperation, is the pain, you know, that brings you to humor occasionally because it's just so awful.
Whether it's construed as humor or black humor, it's honest humor. It's just human foibles, which are the things I'm the most fascinated by. And you trust them, and I think, especially for a story like this, if they're present right at the top, and the audience gets a sense of how genuine and eccentric our characters are, they're let off the hook a bit, and they realize, okay, we can relax and enjoy this film and not worry that we're going to be led down a path of mourning.
Moonlight Mile, a journey to screen. To support the talented cast, the production needed to find the perfect location to help tell a story set in the early 1970s.
Missy Stewart, who is our production designer, had a tough job, not just because she's doing a period film or a 70s film, but what she had to do is a certain amount of recreation and then a certain amount of invention.
We agreed we didn't want it to be the typical 60s or 70s movies. You know, not an Ice Storm, not a Boogie Nights where you were right in the period and everybody was in their huckapoo shirts and their bell bottoms and everything was purple and psychedelic and paisley.
I wanted the story to be set at a moment of transitions, not only just for this family, but in a sense for the world around them too. And the interesting thing back, obviously around 73, was it was in theory the end of the war in terms of the Vietnam War. But I wanted the world around to be moving uncomfortably in transition, the same way that the family is forced to accept a transition in their own lives.
It's just kind of American, simple American living that seems to have not changed hardly at all.
What I knew is I wanted a town in transition, and could I have set it in the Midwest? possibly. I happen to have an affinity for New England, and I knew that the moment the story wants to take place in, which is that transition again from winter into spring, that sort of moment that everything's frozen as our family, as everyone's stuck, the community's stuck, and can hopefully move on when Jake speaks his truth and when everybody's willing to kind of move on with their lives. That's the spring. That's the moment that the film ends with. And I knew how to represent that there because I'm familiar with that terrain.
So what we've done is found the moments in our movie in which we need the reality of a real place, and to have the real people against a backdrop like this, it clearly tells us the movie is taking some place specific and, I hope, original.
It's invaluable to be on a location, especially when the location is such a character in the piece. The town that we create, we call it Cape Ann. Again, it's a North Shore town in Massachusetts. It's Dustin Hoffman's turf, and it's one that's really vulnerable for development. And as Dustin said, the first day he walked on Main Street in Gloucester to shoot his first scene, it just brought him back to his youth and reminded him of towns from the 50s and 60s and 70s. So no, they don't have to make up that part. They get to just focus on their own words and performances. They don't also have to create an environment, which you do have to do on stage.
In addition to location, Brad used music on the set, as well as in the score, to strengthen the actors' performances.
Brad was sending me music even before we started shooting. I mean, I think he really hears music with his dialogue.
Has anybody here seen Razorface? Hurt his back, looking for a place to lay down.
Brad gave me a CD that one of the first times we met of all the music that he was going to use in the movie. He already had it planned out.
And you look at me.
He's picked the music so brilliantly that it really does help, and all the words are so appropriate for the scenes.
Along with music from Sly and the Family Stone, Elton John, and Van Morrison, Brad chose lesser-known cuts from other icons of the 70s, David Bowie, T-Rex, and the Rolling Stones.
Your choice of composer is like casting an actor, like choosing a writer if you're going to go off and develop a screenplay. In this case, I wanted somebody who, again, could speak to the idiom of the period, and Mark has that skill.
Collaborating with Brad was fantastic. He is a consummate director in the sense that he really thinks things through in all departments, I assume, but certainly in the music department, he had really done his homework. We had the world of the songs, which was so well designed. It also became apparent that the other end of the musical spectrum needed to be the more traditional chamber orchestra. So my job was to bring these worlds together. We knew that one end of the musical spectrum needed to be this chamber orchestra. We knew that the other end of the musical spectrum was this story told almost historically with the songs. And we needed a bridge between these two worlds, and thus entered Jorma and Jack.
Jorma and I were out for a 2-month tour on a bus, and I got a phone call on my cell phone, and Brad introduced himself and said he had a project. And I thought, this is too good to be true.
I think my first thought was, are you sure you got the right number? We were both pretty excited about this. I know this is something that Jack's been interested in a long time. And of course, we're always interested in doing everything, but I wasn't sure I'd ever get a chance to do something like this.
I think Jorma and Jack just brought integrity. They brought integrity to the period, to their playing, and really, I like to think of it as sort of DNA that we got to inject in the score of the film, so that rather than somebody coming in and sort of trying to do a facsimile of a musical sound from the period, they are that. They have been. They are the continuity, really, between now and then.
I think Mark is brilliant. I don't know how it's working for him, but it's working great for me. He's really an easy guy to work with, and he sees the totality. I'm basically a solo instrumentalist, or, you know, when I play with my other friends, so I don't see the totality the way he does, and it's fascinating to see how all the pieces come together.
Because I know that if you do it right, and you get the right people, you get something that is so much better than anything you'd ever thought of, you know. Because it's true improvisational creation, which, to me, is still some of the best creative moments in life.
was a great character. It's a very, very funny movie.
I'm excited that other people are really moved by it, and that's all that matters.
All my fears, all my anxiety over with. Played great.
After an unbelievable process of pre-production and production and post-production, it's really now time for the film to take its first steps, and we're looking forward to its life beginning now. This has been such a journey, again, just in the writing, eventually believing that I had earned the right to go make this film finally, trying to mount a cast, to get a studio to trust that this could actually be a film that audiences would come to. And you have to feel great about the accomplishment in the film, and it owes you nothing from here on in, however it's received. Hopefully, whatever reactions audiences bring to you, you have to just feel peaceful with the fact that you got to do a good thing, and that's where I am right now.